in the history of self-realization, this practice that I'm talking about, resting as awareness for short moments repeated many times, is one of the oldest practices. It's at least 17,000 years old. And of all the practices, this is the practice whereby the most people have realized the essence of their being. Why? Because it's not taken to be anything other than what it is, the essence of being human. It's not locked in any tradition or anything. But yet somehow this that is always so easy has become lost in certain kinds of lifestyles that people somehow connect with awareness. So I wrote down a few words that are these kinds, they're like little threads, and very often we think, oh, this really does have something to do with resting as awareness. I really need to be a certain kind of person in order to rest as awareness. And these are just a few things I wrote down, and I'm sure all of you can come up with other things or maybe even better things. Somber, solitude, silence, isolation, authoritarian, hierarchical, male, difficult, impoverished, austere, non-sexual, pious, severe, otherworldly, and ultimate. Well, now these are all things that, somehow it seemed to become very difficult for us to realize our natural state. And we have all these subtle ideas or overt ideas about what is required in order to do that. But, none of these things, a lot of these things, they really sound forbidding. So there aren't many people who would want to enter these kinds of lifestyles. And increasingly, there are fewer and fewer. But indeed, there is no lifestyle that's necessary. And all lifestyles are perfect. So I'm not saying to do away with what I've just described. Whoever wants to live that way, they can. And rest as awareness in that circumstance. That's fine. But what I'm saying here is that getting familiar with our true nature does not depend on circumstances. And if we just look at ourselves and say, here I am today, these are the commitments I've made in life. In other words, I've involved these other people in my life. They're my family members. No one has forced me to do that. I've said to these people, you're my family members. We're going to be together all of our life, and we're going to love each other and have responsibility for each other. That's what a commitment is. So, there's no reason to ever be outside that commitment that already is. If we say, oh, I can only rest as awareness if I give up all these commitments, then it seems like awareness depends on something. And awareness doesn't depend on anything. When people come to me and want me to be their teacher, there are many people who say, oh, I've got to get rid of my family. I can't stand this kid or these kids. Got to get away from my husband or my wife or my job or whatever it is. And I just say, find another teacher. I'm not the one, because I know awareness isn't dependent on anything. And very often this matter is used as an excuse to abdicate responsibility for commitments we've made. But there's nothing that we have to change. There's nothing that need be done. Everything is perfect all at once, just the way it is. And, it certainly isn't gender biased or anything else. Everyone is aware. From the most recently born infant to the person who dies this very moment. It doesn't matter. It doesn't depend on anything. It doesn't depend on anything whatsoever. It doesn't depend on any condition or circumstance. It doesn't depend on any thought or emotion. It doesn't depend on any experience. It doesn't depend on anything. No matter what it is that appears, it's like a mirage. So to think that awareness is dependent on a mirage, that's kind of silly. Remember